Hello, believers, non-believers, and everyone in between. You're listening to Stories with Sapphire. I am Sapphire Sandalo. Now get cozy and open your mind because it's story time. Angel of Death with Eric Freeman Sims.
I worked 20 years in the medical field, and 15 years of that was in emergency medicine. But when I first started in the medical field, I started out as a nurse tech at a nursing home. And the nursing home that I worked in was this huge building, and it had been a nursing home for a long time. But one of the wings was the original nursing home with about, I think, 30 rooms in it. And it had been around since the 1930s or 40s and had always been a nursing home. And this is back in like early 2000s when I went and became a nurse tech. I was 18, 19 years old, and I worked night shift. And this was on an Alzheimer's lockdown unit. So you had to have a code to get in, to get out. So none of the patients wandered off because most of them had dementia, Alzheimer's. And so me and my partner, I had another nurse tech with me. At night, we would go around at the patients. A lot of them were incontinent, so they wore diapers. We changed them if they needed change, things like that. Make sure they didn't get out of the bed or fall, stuff like that. And the only other person on the floor with us was a nurse, an LPN. And when I started there were little things that would happen. So you would hear somebody walking down the hall behind you, but when you turn around, there's nobody there. But you would hear the footsteps. Or you would see somebody walk around the corner. Like it didn't even look like a shadow. It looked like a real person. Walk around the corner, and you'd walk around the corner. There's nobody there. And like I worked 11 at night until 7 in the morning. So we're talking about in the middle of the night. All the patients are in bed. There's only one light on, and that's at the nurse's station. All the other hallway lights are off. There are night lights in the patient rooms. So we're walking around in the dark because we don't want to flip on lights and wake people up. And some of these patients were difficult. So you definitely didn't want to wake them up in the middle of the night. But one night in particular, after I'd heard doors opening and closing, footsteps behind me, see people go around the corner that weren't there. And I had asked the nurse and the other nurse tech, they had both worked there for a long time. They were both older ladies. And they said, "Oh yeah, honey, it just happens around here." So they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to give me any explanation. They just said, "It just happens." And so one night, the nurse and my partner were going to lunch at the same time, about 3:00 in the morning. And so I'm the only employee on the hall. All the patients are in bed, and I'm sitting at the nurse's station, and it was time for me to go do rounds. And that is just going from room to room, checking on patients, making sure they're still in the bed, asleep, things like that, and everything is good. And I get to this T in the hallway to turn left to go down that hall and check patients. And there's a set of double doors at the end of the hall, and there's a light from the parking lot that kind of shines in. And like I said, we walked around in the dark, so our eyes are kind of accumulated to just a little bit of light. At the end of the hallway, in front of these double doors, kind of backlit, is this really tall young guy in a solid black suit. And he's pretty skinny and tall. And he was younger, probably, I would say mid-20s, early 20s. And I look at him, he looks at me, and we kind of make eye contact, and he smiles and turns left and walks into a patient room. And it didn't scare me. I thought it was a real person. It's not like he was translucent. He wouldn't see through. And he didn't give me like this evil grin. It was just a smile of like acknowledging me that I saw him. So I walk immediately down to that room, and I kind of got goosebumps because I'm like, why is somebody in here at 3:00 in the morning? Like, nobody can get in here without me knowing. And I go in that room and I turn the light on, and there's nobody there. There were 2 beds on each side of the room, and all 4 patients were women, and there's nobody in there. So I just kind of like, this is just a weird building. It's been a nursing home. Lots of people have died here. We have weird stuff happen all the time. Kind of chalked up to that. I kind of casually mentioned it a little bit. I didn't want to seem like a big weirdo to the nurses that I worked with. So I just kind of casually mentioned it, and they're like, yeah, things happen. I get off the next morning at 7 a.m. I come in the next night at 11 o'clock, and I find out that an hour after I left, one of the ladies in that room passed away unexpectedly. We weren't expecting. They all had dementia, but they were in fairly good health. So we didn't expect anybody, but one of the ladies in there passed away. And then we had another lady in a few rooms down who would, if she started yelling about the man in the corner, it was just known that somebody was going to die in the nursing home. And she had been yelling about the man in the corner. And so it got me thinking, was this guy that I saw, was he the man in the corner? And the only thing that I could ever call that, and not even through the guise of religion, but I just don't know what to call it, but like the angel of death. Like he came to take that lady, and he's not supposed to be seen. That's why he kind of grinned at me like, oh, he can see me. And he walked in that room. And that just had a profound effect on me, because why else would he have been there? Maybe he was a family member, but he was somebody there that was there to take her soul or spirit or whatever onto the next plane of existence. And so that just kind of validated a lot of things that I had questions about with religion and with what happens after we die and things like that. Just kind of solidified a lot of that, of like, okay, this is real. I'm not crazy. Like, I saw this guy full on solid as could be.